Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. I'm Harper LaBelle. Along with me today is our co-host, our founder, Vincent Turner. Vincent, we've got a guy that knows the Big 12. He knows the University of Utah like no other. He also knows the San Francisco 49ers in the Western Division of the National Football League. It's not exclusive to the West Coast, but it certainly has favor in the West Coast. So we're going to get to look at where the sun sets here in terms of our country and the football atmosphere, the landscape, the way that it is. Brandon Larson's our guest today, Vincent.
Hey, the Big 12 is in the house. The 49ers Super Bowls, and we got a very talented guy coming to us from Salt Lake City. I'm excited. Talent galore. Welcome on.
As we get started, I just want to say thank you to our partners, and we're looking at folks that, hey, if you love golf, I'm going to tell you, The Nine Golf is the place to go. Here in Atlanta, The Nine Golf Studios are where you can go. It's a virtual experience like none other. If you want to play courses from all over the world in the comfort of the 72-degree temperature and not have to be outside in the heat and humidity, The Nine Golf is the place to go. They have a tournament coming up here on September 6th, and it's the first of the inaugural tournaments that they're going to have. It's in the fall classic, if you will, right at the end of summer. There'll be a 3-round minimum for this particular event that they're having, buffet-style food and amazing prizes, including the grand prize winner wins a Wicked Wee golf bag and a complimentary trip up to Asheville, North Carolina to go visit the brewery there. Also, there's a Callaway Elite driver that is for second place, and there'll be 10-hour passes that are given away to third, fourth, and fifth place winners. It's a great event. You're going to love it if you're a virtual golf guy. The TrackMan 4 is like technology that you've never seen. It's amazing. They even have the ability to undulate the greens and your feet. So some neat things that are taking place. And the Golf VX experience allows you to see the trajectory of your ball. You get the spin rate, the launch angle, everything that you need to make your game even better. So the9golf.com for details, or you can go to their app and sign up for their tournament as soon as possible. Also, another charity event that we think is worthy of the utmost of respect is Haney's Harvest House. Lee Haney, the 8-time Mr. Olympia champion, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ronnie Coleman, they won it 7-8 times. So did Lee. Great guy. And he is raising money for the Haney Harvest House. And that is with a golf tournament that will be taking place at the Country Club of Gwinnett in Snellville on October 30th. And if you're not able to make that, please make it out to the Lee Haney Games. If you are a bodybuilding qualifier that wants to be in the Mr. Olympia, just like Vincent right there, a qualifying event in the bodybuilding is the Lee Haney Games. On November 1st, that's a Saturday, you can compete in bodybuilding, weightlifting. There's a deadlift contest, calisthenics. There's a dance. There's a cornhole contest, and fit kids, all for ages in between 6 and 12, and anyone who young or old. Lee Haney Games is where you want to go for that. So go to theleehaneygames.com for details. We appreciate you being patient with that. And Brandon, we appreciate you being patient with us. I'm going to tell you right now, Brandon, football season's getting ready to kick in. Now, we don't know everything, but we're certainly going to give it the best that we have. We're going to talk about SEC. No, we're not going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. We're not going to talk about Alabama or Ohio State, but we're going to look at some other schools. We're going to look at some other programs, and we're going to talk a little bit about what they need to do to be at the highest level and compete. You had 4 schools in the Big 12 last year that were in the top 25. It's a viable conference. Your Utah Utes are in it. So I just want to say, 1, thank you for being here. And 2, let's get ready to rumble, because this is going to be a great conversation that we're having.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Brandon, first and foremost, your expertise, Big 12, as we mentioned, San Francisco 49ers, those are your go-to moments. But
yes, sir.
When did you start enjoying football to the point where you said, not only do I want to talk about it, but I kind of want to make a career if I can out of this?
I mean, it started to be when everyone started telling me, like, hey, how do you know so much about football? I started just sharing tidbits and reading, defensive coverages and calling out plays, being like, oh, hey, got to watch this over the middle. And then a play would happen. And anybody watching the football game with me would look around and be like, how do you know that? So I guess it's just when I started understanding that I look at the football game more than just from a fan's perspective. I'm a diehard fan. Don't get me wrong, but bleed red, Niners, Utes, but I appreciate the X's and O's of it. I'm as much paying attention pre-snap as I am post-snap, where most people are waiting for the ball to snap before they've got something to pay attention to. So it's kind of when I realized that wasn't a normal way to approach watching the football game, and that was when I was like, okay, I might have a little bit of a knack for this. Let's see where it can take me.
Well, it's kind of like the Tony Romo thing. I always give credit to Tony for when he sees the safety walk down, he'll say, hey, watch out for the blitz on the backside, Jim. And it happens because he can recognize it, and he looks like he's Nostradamus, but he's really just, doing what he's been taught to do. How did you learn the intricacies of whether it be, here comes the blitz, watch for the 3-step instead of a 5-step by the quarterback before it happens? You say, he better get it out early. He's got the flat. You better hit him. You know what I mean? What was the impetus for you to be able to say, I think I understand this. I like what I'm seeing. I want to learn more.
It was way back at a young age when elementary, almost like junior high me was competing in Madden tournaments at the GameStop midnight releases for each year's Madden release.
Nice.
I would usually, if not, I never quite won one, but I would at least be in the quarterfinals type range out of, all the 20 or so, 30 or so people that would come and, sign up and think they know how to play Madden. So that was really kind of the start. And that was the realization that it's like, oh man, this is more than just trying to hit that deep ball. This is manipulation. This is, finding tendencies in your opponent, hiding your own tendencies, exploiting tendencies. So all of a sudden I became in love with the game on a much deeper level, I guess you could say, so you could see the passion in my face. The football, there's love, there's fanship there. And man, we're long off season. I'm glad we're just talking about football again.
Yeah, no kidding. It's kicking around the corner. Before we get to anything else, do you mind if I ask you a little bit more about the e-games? Because I know that
Sure.
the trend and the tendency has been growing every year. It's gone from, come on, you seriously, you want to do that for a living? You know what I mean? To, hey, why aren't you doing that for a living? And I mean that sincerely. The amount of money, the prize money, the amount of people that are watching, it just seems to grow and grow. And not just Fortnite or Madden, but, gaming in general. And so that had a really interesting influence on you, didn't it?
It definitely did. I joke, I'm like, I was a little behind the times. Like, I'm looking at seeing kids going to college. Like, people are attending the Utes to play video, or not the Utes, sorry, Utah.
But
And
they're going to school to learn a degree in gaming.
Yeah, exactly. And the times have changed because I would have loved to jump on that, but at the time that I was growing up coming through, it wasn't viewed as a high up skill, I guess, if you will. Usually when you said you learned football from Madden, people would just doubt you. But then when the knowledge shows, like I said, sometimes when someone would watch a game with me, it was pretty much undeniable because I'd be able to call out tendencies. I'd be like, oh, hey, or, your safety's been doing this all game. You better watch that here, coming at the end. Like one of the ones I can remember very vividly, I remember telling my brother, it was the Steelers and Broncos in the playoffs, Tim Tebow, if you remember, and all game they had brought a double safety blitz every first down, like religiously. And it was in overtime. And I remember saying to my brother, I'm like, hey, you've done it all game. You don't do it here, because if you slip and you give up a touchdown, that's the game. And the Steelers brought it. Demaryius Thomas shoved off his man and took it 80 yards for the touchdown. And my brother just looks over at me and I'm like, bro, I told you, I wasn't trying to say that it was going to happen. I was just trying to say, you got to watch out for it. But I wasn't happy that it happened exactly, but I'm like, dude, the tendency was there. I would have called the same play after watching the whole game, the way it went down.
Yeah. And you recognized it. Now, normally people would say if they go to a game themselves, there's a different experience when you get to see that. And from a college perspective, you got the band playing and the halftime pageantry. but you get to, there are times where it's real quiet and you can hear the quarterback barking signals and doing things like that. You get to watch the defense or the offense, whatever. You've got a different experience than what you would see on television. What was the thing about it from an E perspective while you're doing gaming and you're playing remotely? So I'm thinking my thumbs and my index fingers, but I have to be looking at so many different things on the screen and doing it at speed that most people aren't used to. How did that become comfortable for you? Or the question that you ask a lot of professionals or upperclassmen in college: when did the game start slowing down for you? So I'm going to ask that about the same situation with e-game.
Same thing. It came with the repetition. After playing so many games, you know what you're looking for. You're no longer looking at, obviously you're looking at the whole field to see the whole field, but in certain plays, you're just reading a certain mismatch. You're just trying to see what a cornerback does. If he backs off, I'm going to take a quick out, and we're just going to take a quick free 8 yards because he backed off. Oh, if he mans up, well, I like my matchup. Now I'm going to try and send him deep and see if I can get over top of him. Oh, it looks like the safety stayed with him, but I've got the other guy crossing underneath. That was kind of where, when it slowed down, I'm like, okay, it's all about attacking certain coverages, trying to identify what they're doing, or like I said, basically giving away or giving false indicators on my end to get them to do what I need them to do, to then I can do what I need to do, right? I can get them debating and think I'm going to go over the middle and I'll catch them over the top. And then the next time they're defending for that, it's a guessing game if you set it up right, because if you have enough different offensive schemes, offensive plays out of a certain scheme, well, every time I line up, now you've got 4 to 5 different plays you've got to guess if I'm about to run or not out of that scheme. That's when I realized just how in depth it is, and it's like, oh, okay. And I realized I pick up tendencies quick. I see mismatches. I think it did come from playing the game, that, in watching it, it's reading the whole field. It's understanding how to read coverage from the top down, or depending on the play, the bottom up, depending on, who's your hot route at the beginning, who's your quick guy. If you've got pressure coming quick, who's your hot release. So it was when I understood really the depth of the X's and O's that it really started to slow down. And then it was watching it, happen on the field. And early days of Utah, we played a lot of zone, and we just had to play sound good football because we didn't have a whole lot of 5 stars. So we didn't have like the guys to run man to man and just man up with top notch wide receivers, snap in and snap out. So that's when it comes down to schematically. If you're not able to match up man to man with your team, well, schematically makes a hell of a difference in the matchup as well.
I have one more question for you, if you don't mind, and then we'll get to the meat of the matter. But this is a drive down memory lane. Vincent, I put a smile on your face with this. When Vincent and I were kids, we used to play what was called electric football. You had this board, which was just a painted sheet of metal, and you had the little dudes, and you could turn the diode up or down to make them move faster.
Before the techno,
there was always the one guy that just did circles, but you had the favorite. Well, if you had your favorite team's colors available, you'd paint your guys, or you get them when you're the Steelers and the Dolphins. But if I were a Rams fan, I'd be really upset that I had the Bears and the Lions. But that was the technology back in those days. Then you go with one of the first video games. My parents, I was fortunate enough to where I had in television, and you had 5 guys on the screen, and they looked like they were all in a 3-point stance, even the quarterback. It made no sense at all. But then the game changed. There was Mattel had an electric football little handheld game that you could play. Now, or Tecmo Bowl with Bo Jackson and Dion being the guys, right? I've got a picture somewhere.
That was just the one joystick and a button.
Exactly. And now you got guys that are so close to perfection in terms of their body style and their type. And some are big muscle guys, others are just bigs, others are fast. And how do you determine what is the best team for a guy, knowing that the technology is constantly changing? You'll have people that say, even though they didn't play very well, I want to be with the Chicago Bears or the Cleveland Browns or the Kansas City Chiefs. It doesn't matter. But the way that they have done it today, do you love it? Is it better because it is today, or was it simpler back in the day and more desirable to play? and because of the technology, it's almost getting harder to play. Is that a fair question to ask?
Yeah, it's fair. I'd say I think it was a little bit better back in the day. There was a time when it was before the NFL signed an NFL exclusive rights with EA Sports, and that's when Madden essentially monopolized football, because then 2K and a few other game designers that made football type games could no longer actually make a football game because it was exclusive rights to EA.
The choices were reduced drastically, weren't they?
Yep. And then the
instead
quality of game was reduced drastically because competition, iron sharpens iron. And when the competition was no longer there, the one game that was around was able to just get away with mediocre. Like I joke, but the Madden 2025 just debuted some, like the newest Madden just debuted some features that ESPN 2K NFL 2K5 back in 2005 had all those features. So I'm like, oh, it only took Madden 20 years to catch up to their competition. So that's an example. If that doesn't show, healthy competition is good. It keeps the bar high.
Yeah. And for me, it's, just let the kids decide, they'll figure out what game is good. Hey, this game rocks. It's amazing. Or, 25 years or 20 years later, you finally added a feature that I've been used to playing on another game for a while. Vincent, I've been dominating so far. Do you want to talk about your favorite electric football team at all?
Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, that's when they win the Super Bowl, right?
What you say, sir?
I said that's when they're able to win the Super Bowl, right?
That's correct, sir. I see you got shots tonight, but that's all right, baby. Let's get it. But Mr. LaBelle brought up getting back to you, Mr. Lawson. Mr. LaBelle, you brought up that the original game that I had when you got all 11 men, you just turn the electricity on, the man go either other way, but it'd be that one player. I loved it. And as far as the Cowboys Nation, since we're getting shots already, and I love it.
I mean, I know we got thick skin, so I had to fire one across the bow.
And I understand because the 49ers have owned us in the playoffs over the last couple of seasons. And the rivalry goes all the way back to the 90s. But we are going to sign Michael Parsons, and then we're going to get ready to play football. Back to you, Hawk.
Yeah.
Well, are you sure you're going to sign him? Because if you do, you're only going to be having 8 guys on the field. You're not going to be able to afford anybody else.
Going to fill the rest of the team. How much money he's asking for?
If he gets what he's asking for.
Okay, gentlemen, let me ask you this then. Okay, Hop, here you go again. I see the Cowboy hate. Okay, well,
no, I see the Cowboy story. That's the story. You tell me how they're going to sign him.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you this: when T.J. Watt signed for all that money, and Myles Garrett, ain't nothing said. But now, since Michael Parsons want to be paid more than them, all of a sudden we have a problem on the national level. I'm just asking, why is that?
What has Parsons done more than them?
Okay, 52 sacks. I don't know how many tackles for loss, but I know where you're going, Mr. Lawson. Because Trent Williams has owned them in the playoffs. I give you that.
TJ Watt shows up in the playoffs. There's times where the Steelers would have been blown out of that game if the way he didn't play. So that's kind of where I'm like, I want Parsons to put money where his mouth is and go show out when it's needed. Regular season stats are great, but you know what I mean?
Okay, but I'm going to give it back to Mr. LaBelle. I'm going to say this. I understand the hope line, and I'm a very understanding guy. But if we're going to bring up T.J. Watt and we're going to bring up Myles Garrett, my final question is, has any one of them teams been to the Super Bowl lately? I'll give it back to Mr. Harper LaBelle.
So by that matter, I guess Nick Bosa was the only one that deserved to get paid. Because he has been to the Super Bowl a couple times now recently, right?
I don't argue with you there. You got a good point. But hopefully that we sign Mr. Parsons. Like Mr. LaBelle said, hey, I've been a Cowboys fan. Listen to this, gentlemen, since I was 6 years old, and I'm 65, so that's 59 years. I've cried. I bled blood for him. So if they sign Michael Parsons and we don't have any other players able to sign, I guarantee you this. We still gonna get about 5 national games. We still gonna be talked about, even though I reckon might be 4-11. That's what it is in Dallas, baby.
Yeah, can't deny that. You guys will get the attention for sure.
Back to Mr. LaBelle.
Well, I know it's a very interesting and difficult situation. They're both deflecting off of one another. Usually when somebody says it's not about the money, it is about the money. So we'll figure this out. But here we have a full year before it really matters. This would be an extension that they're going to sign for him, and it's going to be a tremendous amount. They just gave Dak $50 million. That's what his head is against cap this year. So it's a tricky situation. I hope they get it done, but Mike is saying I want traded. So it's not going to be resolved without a little bit of pain on both sides, I think. But regardless of that, let's take a look at the Brandon.
My
if you don't
dog's
mind,
someone at the door.
You need to go?
No. I was just trying to quiet down my dogs. I apologize.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if there's someone at the door, we got to talk about that. Hey, the Big 12. Last year, there were some really cool things that happened. If you don't mind me saying so, your Utes, they go into the conference along with Arizona. West Virginia's a new add-in. You've got Colorado that moves from the Pac.
Yep,
I'm interested in your overall perspective, Brandon. What do you think in terms of the quality of football that they were able to produce out of a 16-team conference, 2 divisions with 8 squads each? They're playing 9 conference games. Just a basic overview of, did it work? Is it still needs some work, fine-tuning, adjustment, or did they find the perfect niche and they don't need to do anything to make it any better? It's just fine the way it is. Your thoughts?
No, I mean, I think they did a really good job assembling the conference with what teams they had the ability to put together, right? It's not like they could go and pull. I'm sure they would have liked to pull Oregon and Washington instead of the Arizonas and Arizona States, but I think they did a good job with what they had for sure. I will point out, for years everyone thought that the Pac-12 was the weakest link, but then the year that it dismantles or disbands, its members disperse and go and win multiple other championships in other conferences. I think that should be noted. It's like maybe they were a little bit more, maybe they were better than they were given credit to. And that was kind of why, you never got an undefeated team out of the Pac-12, is because we had 3 championship level teams. Someone won the Big 12, someone won the Big 10. And then, I guess we put 2 others in the playoffs. So it's kind of like, kind of hard to knock it when you look at it that way. But yeah, I'd say they did a good job assembling it. It stays competitive this year. It's, Arizona State's carrying the torch for sure. But the biggest question with them would be no Scatterboo. We all saw what that dude did for the team. He single-handedly beat some teams. So it'll be, are they as effective without their super razor sharp Swiss Army knife that Scatterboo is? And then
I was impressed. Very interesting point that you made. And Vincent, I want your comments too. The Pac, blah, blah, blah. Forget about the Pac. We can do the western portion of the SEC, which included Texas and Oklahoma, brand new to the conference, and Texas wins the West. You take the western portion of the Big 12, the Big 12, and Arizona State ends up winning that. The western portion of the Big 10, you have Oregon come in. Washington, SC, UCLA, they struggled a little bit. I'll be candid, but Oregon certainly didn't. They were ready to play from day one, and they showed that. They proved it. So it's a very good observation. I appreciate you doing that. And that's not saying that West Coast football is the best that there ever was, but it's competitive. and
Yeah.
you come on any day, and if you're not ready to play, you might go home feeling a little hurt because there's some boys out there that can bring it, and some great coaching staffs, etc. So I know you had higher expectations, Brandon, for Utah, and I know
Mhm.
they struggled their first year. But talk a little bit about your background with the Utes, and what they've been a part of your life for as long as they have. And let's be candid. Last year Utah ended up finishing 5-7. They were 2-7 in the conference, so every one of their losses was a conference loss. So that shows you the competitive nature of the Big 12. And
Mhm.
Utah was ready for the non-conference games, but it was a little tougher. So begin with your background with Utah sports.
So, as far as background Utah sports, I'm going to be heading into my 22nd season of holding season tickets for the Utes. I sit in the north end zone. I've been rallying that place for, like I said, the last 22 years since I was 10 years old. Running, we used to sit front row. I'd run up and down the row, getting everybody amped up on third down. And then as I got older, paying more attention to the game, not the energy. We kind of moved back a few, and we're closer to just above the porthole, so we can see the whole field, because I do like to see the whole perspective. I love it. I call it the coordinator's perspective, seeing both sides of the field. And I will say on my preseason prediction on Utah last year, it was all predicated on the health of Cam Rising. I do believe if that dude stayed healthy, we probably would have been competing for a Big 12 championship. But when he got injured versus Baylor, it was like, I mean, I don't want to say doom and gloom around Utah, but it sure seemed that way, because all of our hope, they put all their eggs in one basket on that one. And then, unfortunately, based on recruiting and trying to keep everything, I think we were kind of I want to say handicapped into it, but we were forced to give Isaac Wilson the second string job behind Cam Rising. And so after he went down, we were left with a quarterback that I didn't think was ready for D1 play. He should have been in the cooker cooking, and Brandon Rose should have been the starter after Rising went down. And I think it's very apparent because he broke his foot versus BYU, but you look at that game versus BYU's coming in on a hot streak. Utah's coming in on a losing streak, and he took him all the way to the wire. And then we find out, he broke his foot at the end of the first half, and completed and still played and finished the rest of the game in the second half. So it's like injuries derailed us at the quarterback position, but it also that's part of football. And the last few years, that's been the story with Utah. So I'm excited and hoping that that's not going to be the case this following season. We got Devin Dampier transferring in. He's coming over from New Mexico. He's coming with Wayshawn Parker, the running back, and then I think it's Ryan Davis, the wide receiver. So he's coming with already a familiar weapon, to throw to, and familiar running mate next to him, and he's coming with his offensive coordinator, who I'm little light on the numbers, but I want to say he was a top 5 offensive coordinator last year, the way you chalk up the numbers. So, we addressed and fixed the things last year that we had, but there's a Utah way that Utah does things, and that we never got to that way last year. And so now I think this year it's I want to say rebuild, but we were, like you said, we were 5-7 last year. So that ain't going to cut it. And it's time to make changes. And I think we've made the right changes. Like Dampier, his last year, if he can translate to P4, he's got a lot of promise. In no specific order, the last 4 players to rush for 1,000 yards and throw for 2,500 in a season is Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Jaden Daniels, and Jalen Hurts. So he's definitely in good company. We got to see if it translates to the P4 level. But I watching everything I see on tape, I don't see why it wouldn't, because Utah's going to put him, he's going to have better players around him, starting with he's going to have the second best or second highest graded offensive line. Like I saw the poll on it, and they're putting their line second behind Alabama, which is a little bit. I'll take it. I'm happy for it, but it's different than the normal Utah way, because usually it's the Utah's D line that you're expecting to be, top 10 unit type thing, and that's actually the unknown this year. And the offensive line is we can count on that. We got a top 5 line in front of a quarterback that's capable of that type of dual threat ability. I mean, he himself has already predicted and said he wants to have his own Heisman campaign. But to me, I'm like, let's let that happen on the field, which he's going to get his opportunity with all the spotlight being on, I forget that UCLA transfer, Lama Levea, or I'm forgetting his name. But that's who we pull week 1. So, we'll see, spotlight's going to be on it for him, but, maybe we have the emergence of a Heisman quarterback in there. But like I said, I'm sure hoping he's in red.
Well, you make a couple of interesting points. The first of which is, Vincent, if you and I go to a Utah game and Brandon's there and we're sitting on our hands, he's going to slap us around. He's just going to run up and down the aisles and make sure that we are standing every time the Utes need a big third down conversion. The second thing of importance, and there were several, but the one about the offensive line, Vincent and I could play quarterback behind a good offensive line. Tom Brady would have a struggle against a weaker one. So that's a great point, and so critically important for any school at any time, whether they're able to run first, run second, or if they're going to pass all the time and just run a 4-wide spread type thing. If you've got a bunch of big boys up there in front, and I don't know if there's any draft picks. I don't even know if they're old enough. You'll tell me whether or not. No, these are all sophomores and juniors. 2
top 10 linemen, both tackles, are considered top 10 tackles in this year's the next upcoming NFL
right.
draft.
And if they stay healthy, and we're talking about first rounders possibly, then obviously that's a big difference maker, especially after, if you don't mind me saying so, Brandon, not to be disrespectful, but having a rough year and losing 7 games. It's not acceptable at the Utah level. It hasn't been for years.
Nope.
So for that to self-generate in terms of their motivation, it makes all the difference in the world.
Well, and that's why I mentioned, and I'm not trying to throw him too much under the bus, because don't get me wrong, I like the guy as a player and I want to see him progress and develop. I just think he wasn't ready last year, but Isaac Wilson wasn't ready. And I mean, the ranking of the offensive line is almost a kind of a backing to that. The best friend to a young quarterback coming in is a line that's protecting him. But if that line's protecting him and he's still not doing anything with it, you got to get someone that gets better results. And so that's why I'm kind of excited to see, because watching the tape last year, you wouldn't have looked at our line and been like, wow, that line is fantastic. But then you realize that it behind a quarterback that's undecisive and not going to make his decisions and, fire it. And
in some cases, just naturally, they're a year away, right, Brandon? Sometimes they can be, they're just a little bit young, and boy, they've got all the tools to be great juniors and or seniors.
Red shirts are there for a reason. I don't know why he had to be the next guy up, right? Unless he absolutely was. And I think Whittingham learned that as well. He's never done that in his career. I can't think of in the 22 years that I can never really think of him doing that. And I think he learned it. And he's like, no, because if you look at the way the whole entire, I don't want to say morale, but like team attitude, the Utes behind Cam Rising would run through a wall, but the Utes behind Isaac Wilson looked like they just showed up to play a football game that day.
Yeah.
So, it's a difference in, leadership as well, but that makes a big difference, because we haven't had a starting level quarterback since Rising finished healthy for us. So give us that, and let's see, I expect us to be in a championship game for the conference championship.
Yeah, the foreseeable future. Vincent, your thoughts? Anything in particular stick out? I have Arizona State finishing number 4 in the country. Remember, they had that great game here in Atlanta, the Peach Bowl. It goes into overtime and really right down to the wire before Texas ends up beating them. Iowa State, to me, was a surprise. They were 11-3 last year. BYU was 11-2, and they finished in the top 15. University of Colorado at 9-4. doing everything they can to try to represent. And Shadur Sanders, of course, their leader is now in Cleveland. But there's some other schools that I won't mention now, Vincent. But before I do, I want to ask, what were overall your thoughts here about the Big 12 and how they represented themselves, especially at the end of the year?
I thought the conference was very competitive. I think some good teams came out last year that represented the conference well. Iowa State, Kansas State. I thought Texas Tech played at a decent level. And, of course, the surprise with Arizona State. No question about it, they lost Cam Scatterbo, who's one of the best players in the country. But, Brandon, I'm going to tell you this. Don't sell them short because they got Sam Levitt coming back, Jake Plummer too. And then they got maybe the best receiver in the country, Jordan Tyson. And I love their coach, Kenny Dillingham. Arizona State is real. Then I like Kansas State. Again, if we talk about quarterbacks, Avery Johnson with that hair. And then think about they got really good players. Dylan Edwards, I like him. And then Iowa State. Andy Beckett, baby. Rocco, he's a very special player. 3,500 yards last year, 25 touchdowns. And I like Iowa State and Kansas State kicking off the college football season in Dublin, Ireland. And then you look at Colorado, the interest over there, who's going to be the starting quarterback. The young man from Liberty, Caden Slater. And then, of course, the gentleman I saw play and met him in a restaurant here where I'm living in Douglasville, Georgia, Juju Lewis. His real name is Julian. And then, of course, you got Houston. Willie Fritz was a good coach in his day. Now he's taking over the program. Got a quarterback transferring in from Texas A&M, Connor Webb. And then you got to be happy, man, about the conference. You're going to know they're going to be more of a competitor because Rich Rod is coming back. Mm-hmm. West Virginia, he got a good running back, too, in Jaheim White. And then Scott Frost, baby, even though things didn't work out in Nebraska, your school, but he's coming back to Central Florida where he had a lot of success. I think the conference is on its up. And I like the competitiveness of the whole conference. I think it might, if we really don't watch it, there might be two teams that make the college football playoffs, top 12. I'm really excited about the Big 12. They performed at a level and exceeded my expectations. And then, of course, Utah. As Mr. Brandon Larson said, it's all about the quarterback. Devin Dampier, offensive coordinator Jason Beck, I like him. But I like the two defensive players on defensive side of the ball Utah has. Blake Cotton, a lot of people hadn't heard of him, and Lander Barton. His brother right now is the linebacker for the Tennessee Titans. Back to you, Mr. LaBelle.
Well, there you got it. The whole conference in a minute. How about that? That was
that was a heck of a breakdown.
Brandon, your thoughts?
And also Baylor, Sauer Robertson is a very good football player with Dave Aranda. Excuse me, Hawk.
No, that's okay. Are you kidding me? Yeah, we want to go over all of it. Let me get my picture up. Okay, you're going so fast I couldn't get my schools to match where you were going first. But give me your thoughts, if you don't mind, Brandon. What gets you excited in the morning if you're the commissioner of the Big 12 and you're being asked in a press conference, who do you think has a chance to represent your conference well and play from the very beginning of the season to the very end with the type of fire that you would want them to and hopefully be a member of this college football playoff here in 2025?
A-State's an easy one to point at with the return of Sam Levitt, probably the most veteran quarterback in the bunch. And then I would say one thing I really like too about the Big 12 is there's a lot of teams, like you'd mentioned West Virginia, Kansas. They would have wanted better last year. Even the Jayhawks started coming on strong last year, right? They're the reason why BYU didn't play in the conference championship game because BYU started. They were the ones that beat Colorado. I might have it vice versa. I know each of them slipped up a game and it cost them a championship appearance essentially, because there for a minute it looked like it was going to be BYU Colorado. But what I like about it is it seems like all the teams are all in. With the way the college football landscaping is changing with NIL and everything, it really comes down to, is the program ready to financially back winning, being a winning football program? And from everything, the moves I've seen from other teams, it seems like every team is all in to make that, to be the team that holds the torch at the end. I do think a couple are capable of it. BYU, if they make a step forward, Arizona State. I'm throwing in Utah because, like I said, as soon as we get a starting caliber quarterback, look out. An interesting stat too to throw out: there were only you got to check it, but there was only like 2 or 3 games last year in the Big 12 of opponents that scored more than 20 points on Utah last year. We're talking about the Big 12, the high-flying Big 12 that's normally, 400 and 500 yards past. Like, normally games are 145 to 52, type thing. And so it's like, if we can figure out our offensive side, that's another spot, because we held everybody. Our defense was a rude awakening, if you will, to the Big 12. It was just, we had no offense to back it. But if we can, again, if we can keep a defense that's not giving up less than 20 points a game, and then, bring in an offense that's scoring, averaging 35 plus or so, I think that's a perfect formula for there.
Well, do me a favor, Brandon. Let's get real specific here. What do you think, just from a bird's eye perspective, is the strength? Is it their pressure on third down from a defensive line that can get to the quarterback? Is it the drop 7 in their ability to cover, whether it be man-to-man or zone? Are the cornerbacks and safeties some of the best in the conference? What impresses you most about Utah's defense?
I'd say our cornerback room is very nice. They Elijah Davis, I forget his first name, but his last name's Cotton. He mentioned Vincent mentioned him, and then
Blake.
Smith Snowden. Yeah, Blake Cotton. But Smith Snowden as well. We've got elite corners. I would say or probably what look like somewhere. I haven't put them in draft range yet, but I think future NFL corners in the 3 that we have. So we can sit back and sit in coverage, but up front too, we've got Spencer Fanu returning, because we have that ability. Like, Utah doesn't blitz a whole lot. We rely on 4-man front to get pressure, and we sit back and coverage, sound defense. That's one thing you can, almost a calling card from Utah is you can count on, is they're usually technically sound, not a whole lot of mental mistakes, that sort of thing. And then the linebacker, he mentioned Lander Barton. That dude, he's got 4 interceptions in his Utah career, 2 of which have gone for pick 6s. As a linebacker, I think that's a little bit crazy, but yeah, that dude, it's a senior year coming up, so he's going to be making a good, he's making his NFL resume this season. And the way injury kind of derailed him the end of last season, I'm expecting him to come back strong. He's got the build and the instincts on the field. He's got everything needed to be a top linebacker. He's just got to go put it on the field now.
All right, Vincent, great commentary there by Brandon. Anything further that you would want to add about Utah? Because I want to let's look at the bottom 4 and work our way up. Oklahoma State, they were 3-9 last year. They were 0-9 in the conference. So every single one of their losses was in the conference. They really struggled. That is highly unusual if I'm a Cowboy fan. And I don't know how that's going to survive. And then Arizona, coming off a pretty competitive Pac-12 experience that they had the last couple of years. They've always got a couple of guys that are going to get drafted. They don't have 8. They've got 2. And that's what I think one of their weaknesses. Vincent, they go 4-8 last year. They were 2-7 in the conference. I'm going to look at Central Florida. They were 4-8 as well, 2-7 in the conference, and then Utah. Of those 4, who do you think, Vincent, I'm going to start with you. Who do you think is going to have the biggest turnaround and go from embarrassing 2024 to an enlightening 2025?
I would say Utah, definitely, because Brandon brought up some good points. The quarterback play last season just went at Utah standards. And I think Devin Dampier is going to have a chance to prove that he be on the spotlight as one of the top college quarterbacks in the country. And I like that Coach Kyle Willingham. I don't think Kyle Willingham is going to have back-to-back losing seasons. In
Never
the,
has.
in the second team, I got to tell you, I like Central Florida. I like Scott Frost. I thought he was a hell of a football coach at Central Florida, built that program. I thought he should have stayed. He went back to Nebraska. But so you got to understand something. Nebraska is different now because they're in the Big Ten. But I think Central Florida, with the facilities they got, is a good football town in Orlando. He's got a really good linebacker that came through the portal, Lewis Carter. I think Central Florida will be my second team that'll really surprise me. And of course, with Oklahoma State, before I finish, Mike Gundy, I never saw it coming with him going 3-9. But I can tell you this: the hot seat is hot for Mike Gundy. He's been there, I think, too long. Maybe the game is past. But back to you, Mr. Harper LaBelle.
Yeah, interesting point there. What fascinates me, Brandon, about Central Florida is all the kids that want to go to Florida, Miami, or Florida State. There's 75. If you have 25 per school, there's 175 great players that would love to go there that are playing just in Dade County alone. Right. Then you go to Broward County, or you go just outside of Pensacola, and you can talk about Tallahassee itself or the Gainesville area. That's where I think Central Florida has maximized their recruiting. They get the 3- and 4-star guys that either have some great issues, they may have a little bit of problem here and there. They want to run, they want to jump, they want to swim, they want to fly, they want to do all of that kind of stuff, but they just don't have what it takes to get to the elite level. And that's where I think that Central Florida has just maxed out and done a great job. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't see them sitting by the wayside for too long.
I mean, you got to look at it. You brought up a good point, Hart. When you look at Central Florida, a.k.a. Dante Culpepper, he started. He was a guy that I heard that wanted to go to Florida real bad. He was from Arcola, which is only about 20 miles down the road. But, hey, he just went on the Florida list. And what did he do? He went to Central Florida, and we saw what happened there.
He starred. He starred. Just wanted to get on the field. Yeah, just give me a chance.
And you brought up another strong point. Remember, it's a lot of football players in the state of Florida, and everybody can't go to Miami. Everybody can't be a Gator. Everybody can't go and play for Bobby Bowden in Florida State. But there's Central Florida, and they had a guy in Scott Frost who came in and realized that, like I said, I thought he should have stayed in Central Florida, but the rest is history. He's back there, and I think Central Florida is going to make a big jump in the Big 12 this year. Back to you, Hart.
Brandon, are we all wet behind the ears, or are we making a point there that makes, that's good sense? I know you don't want to see it happen, but I think there's going to be some change in the there are going to be some changes here, and everybody's got to get a little more competitive.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I agree 100%. That's kind of what I mean by everyone. It seems like everybody's all in. Any team in the Big 12, you can't really just point at and be like, oh yeah, that's an easy win for us. Like, I don't really see that with really any teams, because I mean, like I said, like look at K-State last year, or just the Jayhawks last year. I mean, they came on strong and they played spoiler to a couple different teams. So that's kind of what I love about the conference is there, any given week, any team can be beat. But yeah, I can't argue that point. I think Central Florida's on the coming up, because they just added. Remind me where Frost came from.
Nebraska.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was Nebraska. I wanted to say I was almost thinking Wisconsin was in my head, but I had red. But I'm like, okay, it was Nebraska. Yeah, and look what Nebraska did to Colorado last year.
Before that, he was in the Sun Belt, right? So he's just learning. He knows how to recruit the high end guys and the guys that just need a pat on the back, if you will.
Well, yeah. Then he's that. Like we call that setting up pipelines. Like Utah has their Polynesian pipeline. Like, yeah, he's got the pipelines built, and yeah, I wouldn't definitely overstep him by any means next year.
All right,
Same.
let's move
same
forward
okay.
a little bit in the conference, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Again, this is the bottom going up: Houston, Cincinnati, Kansas, West Virginia. I'm surprised. I thought Cincinnati would do a little bit better. They're kind of dwelling right in the middle there, just the lower half. Cincinnati was 5-7 last year. They were 3-6 in the conference. Um, I don't know what to make of the Bearcats. I wish I did. I just don't. I would love to be able to say that, they're a rising power, but after what we just talked about with the previous four schools, I don't know how to answer this. Brandon, start with you, and then Vincent, give your comments on those next four teams: Houston, Cincinnati, Kansas, West Virginia.
I'd say that though, like that bunch of four is they're all kind of a wild card. Quite a few of those, like I didn't see Cincy, so I didn't get a personal look at Cincy last year. Did they make any major changes coaching wise?
No, not that I'm aware of, and I'm sorry, I haven't spent my day studying Cincinnati Bearcat football. I have to be honest with you, right?
No, that was
I'm
me
just
too.
saying, I don't know what to make of them. I really don't. I hope they improve and get better. You talked about teams that are making a commitment, and that's a financial one. I'm not sure where they stand in that. I know that Cincinnati has had some money. They've always been a team that they're the underdog when they go in, but they remind me a little bit of like Louisville. They're always around. Maybe every now and then they've got a really good year and are extremely competitive. I just don't know what to make of them this year. Last year they were, like I said, 5-7 and 3-6 in the conference.
And then, I feel like in the years past, not too recent, but they've been good before. Like I feel like they have kind of a bit of a scrappy mentality. Like they'll scrap with you and bite and claw and basically drag out a game with you in a bit of a way. And then moving on, I think I do think Kansas will probably have a better season than last year. They're returning. That's one of the other returning quarterbacks, right? I can't think of his name.
Jalon Daniels.
Yeah. He was nice last year. So anticipating development from him. What is that? He's going into his junior year now, right? Or is it
Senior?
Senior. Okay, it is his senior. Okay, it's been a little longer than I thought. So yeah, a senior quarterback in place. You kind of expect, the offense to at least be running that way. Because a big question mark with them would be, can they fix kind of their defensive issues last year? I remember them being in a lot of just shootouts. It seemed like unless they could outscore their opponent, they weren't stopping them, type of thing.
Vincent, your thought. Next four is Cincinnati, Houston, Kansas, and West Virginia. You mentioned West Virginia a little bit earlier. I know you like Rich Rod.
Rich Rod coming home, baby.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a very good wide receiver in Cam Vaughn that he's bringing from Jacksonville State. Just right down the road where I live at. And that kid is a very good football player. But I like Rich Rod coming home. As far as Cincinnati, it's kind of very unusual that you brought up, Harper, that Cincinnati reminds you of Louisville. But the Cincinnati coach is Scott Satterfield, who was at Louisville for a couple of years before he left Louisville for Cincinnati, which surprised a lot of people. So this is what Scott Satterfield does. His teams play on the border more or less. 1 week they look like they can play with the big boys, the next week they struggle. That's why Louisville became very upset with him. But I tell you this, Cincinnati, even though they did kind of struggle in the conference and they played what I say mediocre ball at times, they still got a very seasonal quarterback in Brendan Sorley coming back. And they got a very good running back in Evan Pryor. So I expect Cincinnati is going to be competitive just because they head coach. And then Kansas, Jalon Daniels was very special. 2 years ago, he was one of them guys had, I think, over 4,000 yards passing and close to 1,000 yards rushing. Last year, he fought a lot of injuries, played up and down. They got a very good running back, LaShawn Williams. That's a very good football player that's replacing Devon Mills that was there last year. But remember this about Kansas. They beat Colorado in a game that Colorado had to have to get to the college playoffs, and they beat Colorado handily. So those teams right there, I think they're going to be competitive on a very nice level. And one other thing I want to mention about the Big 12, they got some very good quarterbacks in this league.
Yeah.
Sam Pittman at Arizona State, Avery Johnson at Kansas State, the Morton gentleman at Texas Tech, Josh Hoover at TCU, Rocco Beckett, as I just mentioned, Delon Daniels, Connor Wegman coming over to Houston. When you look at all what that conference is, it's going to be competitive. But those 4 teams right there, the team I wanted to watch out, I didn't get on the Tyree watch for the Kansas Jayhawks. I think they're going to be a surprise team because 2 years ago, I think they won 9 games. And last year, Jalen Daniels was hurt, and that hurt that football team. But when they got kind of healthy, you saw what they did to Colorado in November in a meaningful game where Colorado had to have to get to the Big 12 championship game.
Well, let's stick with you, Vincent. I'm going to say Kansas State, Texas Tech, TCU, and Baylor are the next 4. Kansas State, goodness gracious, is there a team that has finished in the top 3 of the conference more than Kansas State has? I mean, they're so consistent. They were 9-4 last year, 5-4 in the conference. Texas Tech had a good year last year. They were 8-5. TCU was 9-4. Now, Josh Hoover, I'm kind of pulling for him a little bit. His father, Alex, was a teammate of mine at Colorado State, and Alex had a big old butt. And he was a little bit too slow, and he married a beautiful woman, so he's got a great kid, and the kid can run. He's strong, he's fast, and I wish him well. And that he has a chance to get drafted someday. And then Baylor Bears, man, who doesn't root for the Baylor Bears? But start with Kansas State. Those 4, that quadrant right there, and talk a little bit about those four schools and what you think of their chances.
I'm going to start with those 4 schools. I think I wouldn't be surprised if 2 of those schools end up in the college football playoffs. I think that's how talented those 4 schools are. I'm going to start with Kansas State. Anytime you want to play on the big level, you got to have the quarterback, as Brandon mentioned. Avery Johnson's a big-time player. Remember this, gentlemen. That's the reason Will Howard left Kansas State and ended up at Ohio State, because of Avery Johnson. Remember that.
Right.
They got a really good running back that 2 years ago was at Colorado and couldn't find his footing because Colorado didn't have no offensive line. But Dylan Edwards got into Kansas State, hometown boy. I believe it's from Wichita, Kansas. He averaged almost 7 yards a pop. Then you look at Iowa State. Matt Campbell. A lot of people are very high on him a couple years ago as being that guy in the coaching ranks. Then Iowa State kind of took a step back. But I'm telling you, Anthony Beckett was a very tough football player as a tight end with the Jets out of West Virginia. I didn't think he'd have a son this good at the quarterback position in Rocco. He is a player. And they got 2 good defensive players in Dominique Orange and Jeremiah Cooper. Then you got to look at TCU, baby. As you just mentioned, Hawk, Josh Hoover, don't sleep on him. 3,700 yards last year. He can really throw the football. And then, of course, the last, Texas Tech. When you look at Texas Tech, I didn't think they had that much money until they had a former player that kind of owns an oil company. And he's kind of like a billionaire, former player that played back in 2008, 2009. And he started investing all that money into the program the last 2 years in the NIL. And then you got Joey McGuire, who was a very legend in the high school ranks. They got 2 of the top defensive players in the country in the NIL, and David Bradley that's coming over from Stanford, and Lee Hunter. And what I heard, this Texas Tech team is not like the Texas Tech teams that the day we did a special on Gabriel Rivera. This not the Texas Tech teams of the 70s and 80s. What I'm hearing, this is a team under Joey McGuire. This is his best team since he's been there. So I'm looking it up. And then Baylor. Sauer Roberson, very good quarterback. Bryson Washington, very good running back. How can you not cheer for Dave Aranda? Started out at Baylor. I think his first 2 years, he went like 10-2, 11-2, and went to the Big 12 championship game. And then all of a sudden, the wheels fell off for a couple of seasons. Now he's back in the mix because they were thinking about firing him. But I love Dave Aranda. I love his persona. I like him when he was a defensive coordinator at LSU. I think Baylor's going to be back on the scene. Those 4 teams are going to be very, very good this year. And think about Baylor right quick. They play Auburn the opening game of the season. So we're going to find out what Baylor stands real quick. And I'm looking forward to that matchup. War Eagle against the Bear. Back to you, Harper.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some
War Eagle against the Bear.
War Eagle. Hey, Brandon, your thoughts? Anything Vincent said that makes no sense to you at all, or is it all kind of falling in place?
I pretty much agree with it. I was nodding right along. I think he said pretty much all of what I could have said, so I'd say it was covered on that one.
Yeah, I pretty much, as I said, I'm rooting for TCU for personal reasons, but I have to admit, having a billionaire that played and wants to give you some money, especially to some of the kids coming in, that's a good thing to have in your hip pocket. You know what I mean? Go Texas Tech, man. It's amazing.
Guns up.
We'll throw out Baylor, I guess, is who we have to owe to why we did get to see a full season of Cam Rising in the Big 12, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah. Bitter party one, Brandon. Your table's ready, right? You've got a little bit going on against Baylor, don't you?
Just a little bit. It was would say, semi-dirty hit that put Cam Rising out. And little fact, he's now he only has 50% grip in his throwing hand now. Wow. From that particular injury. He doesn't even pass a football physical anymore, unfortunately. Wow. So that dude gave, everything. He blew out his knee. He lost grip in his hand. Like, that dude has my respects as an all-time great Ute, because, he is the definition of left it all on the field.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yes,
an amazing career, and that SC win that they had, we'll talk about that on another occasion, but let's stick with the conference first. The Final Four in reverse order from lowest to top to the top order: Colorado, BYU, Iowa State, and Arizona State. Brandon, let's first talk about any of those four impress you right now. I think CU does have a bit of a problem trying to get their roster to be full. I know it is full, but I don't know what they've got in the offensive line. You lose your quarterback, you lose your receiver, and your top defensive back in the first round. They've got some holes to fill, but I think Deion is capable of doing it. The thing that intrigues me here is there's not a whole lot of hype right now, is there? There's not a whole lot of talk. The cameras aren't following him, so I'm wondering if there's a reason behind that, or if this is media marketing 101 playing in reverse. Hey, don't talk to me at all, but we've got a team that's loaded. I'm not sure which way to look at it.
I think I know he was dealing also with a cancer issue of some kind as well. So I think he's probably been down quiet on that, just focusing on getting himself right physically. But then he did come out. He's ready. Deion's ready to coach and continue his career with the Colorado Buffalo. But yeah, I mean, the question mark is who's going to be quarterback. I know they got, I can't think of his name now. I know he's a 5-star kid though. I know they went and reloaded there, landed a top notch. What's his name?
Juju Lewis from Carrollton, Georgia.
Yep. He's a 5-star guy, right? Am I right?
Yeah. He had committed to USC first, and then he committed to Colorado. And then what shocked me, not trying to interrupt anything, Colorado went out and signed one of the top quarterbacks in the portal, and Caden Slater from Liberty.
That was the
crazy numbers last year. But back to you, Brandon.
No, that's what I was saying. It'll depend on who's quarterback. But then also I'll point out they didn't just lose, like losing Travis Hunter's huge, but like they had 3 NFL level wide receivers drafted. So your entire wide receiving core is being replenished there as well. And it's, I don't want to say a drop off, but we'll see where it comes at. But it's, the bar is being left at 3 NFL wide receivers are departing from there. So that's pretty big holes to fill. And then same thing kind of on the defensive side, you lose your top cornerback in Travis Hunter. So you've got a hole to fill there. But then he's put together an amazing coaching staff. It seemed like each year he's kind of like his first year, it was his run game and his run defense that really held him back. And then he went and Warren Sapp's his defensive lines coach now. So I expect Colorado to stay competitive. I don't like to say it, but BYU will be right there. The big question mark with them, same thing, is going to be quarterback. That just hurts that you put that up there. But
I know.
No,
my fingers are begging me to not do that. So I dislike the Y as much as anybody.
It's all right, but yeah, with Ratcliffe transferring, I think it leaves a little bit of a question mark there. They have I can't think of his name. They have that wide receiver. Not to be pointing him out, but just a tall white dude. I can't think of his name now.
Chase Roberts.
Yeah, that's right, Roberts. So he's whoever's going to be quarterback is going to have targets to throw, but it's your Ratcliffe was at the top, at least at the top echelon of Big 12 quarterbacks. So again, what replaces it? Where's that bar set? So kind of same question mark with BYU. And then Iowa State, they're returning their same quarterback, but they're losing. It was their running back and their wide receiver, right? Refresh my memory. Rocco
Beckett. I just mentioned his name about 3 times.
Right. Yeah. He returns, but they lose. Was it Higgins or Hodgins? That big playmaking wide receiver.
Yeah. Yes, they did.
So yes, sir. That'll be an interesting one. But again, that game with Utah was very competitive. That was one of our better games. We played them on the back half of the season when I think we were trying to play for pride, not because we were supposed to be the big team in the Big 12 that year type thing. And so I do think Iowa State moves forward. It'll just be who's that go-to guy for Rocco. And then, of course, A-State, Sam Leavitt coming back. He's, carrying the torch. I mentioned it before, though. Scattaboo, that dude did everything for that team. So they that's a lot of yardage, a lot of total yards to replace. Not saying they can't, but they're definitely the top dog of the Big 12 this year. I think when they came in, I got to throw out their respect because they came in very admirative of Kyle Whittingham and wanting to build their program the way the Utes had built their program through the Pac-12. Kenny Dillingham had actually mentioned that in multiple interviews, how he had utmost respect for Whittingham, and they were trying to kind of emulate that style. And I would say they did a good job of it. They last year became the Big 12 fully.
Yeah, absolutely. Vince, your thoughts on the four?
The four, BYU, you said BYU, Colorado, and the other two, Iowa State and
Arizona State.
Arizona State, okay. Arizona State, I'm going to start with them. This is a team that got a good chance to get back to the college football playoffs. Sam Leavitt was coached in high school by your former teammate, Chris Miller. So we know he's a player. One thing about Mr. Leavitt, he went to Michigan State first, and Michigan State didn't work out. Then he transferred to Arizona State. And then it looked like last season when Mr. Scattaboo started playing real well, his game really kicked into gear. And it kicked into gear with Mr. Jordan Tyson. And, man, they became real strong. And remember this, Jordan Tyson didn't play in the Big 12 championship game or against Texas. Think about it, he would have been on the field. We probably wouldn't be talking about Texas advancing playing Ohio State.
Okay. I didn't know that.
And then BYU. For some reason, they stay competitive, man. Even of the days of Robbie Brasco, Ty Detmer, Steve Young, I got to give credit to them. And they got some good football players. Chase Roberts, Jack Kelly are very super football players. BYU is going to be competitive. And the one thing I like is their home field advantage. You play up there, you better be ready to play. And then You're looking at Colorado. Y'all mentioned that they don't have, maybe they're going to miss a defensive back and maybe the wide receivers. They had 3 of them that went to the NFL. But let me tell you about a receiver 2 years ago against USC, put 199 yards on them receiving. Amaron Miller out of Florida. And DJ McKinley. I'm not going to say he's going to make us forget Travis Hunter, but he's an NFL corner. And I want to see, me personally, Colorado, who they going to have at quarterback. That's going to be the biggest question with me, because if Juju Lewis doesn't start, the only thing that can affect Colorado is, I know some people in this camp, I don't want to put it out there this evening, but they will be talking about transferring, and I'm going to leave it at that. And Colorado has an NFL staff. They brought Marshall Falcon, Brian Leftwich, an all-star staff. So I expect them to be competitive, because all the knowledge they have in NFL, they should win some games. And then family. The last school you mentioned, Hopper, on the list, the Final Four, Iowa State, right?
Yep.
This is another team. I look at Kansas State, same quality. They play each other open week 0. Rocco Beckett, I'm telling you, Andy Beckett's baby boy has a chance to really get out there. Depends what happens in that Kansas State game. Him and Avery Johnson, which one of them has a better game? Start talking about Heisman talk. And I love the head coach, Matt Campbell. Even though he was a hot commodity a couple of seasons ago, rumored for some big jobs in other conferences, he started to stay at Iowa State. And I think Iowa State or Kansas State, one of those teams is going to be a surprise out of the Big 12 on the national level. And don't worry about the receivers that Mr. Beckett lost, because he got a transfer coming in, and I'm going to mention his name this evening. Remember his name, Xavier Towns. I'm going to say it quietly, Xavier Towns. Back to you, Mr. LaBelle.
Well, you got a good look at what the Big 12 has to offer, and for 3 or 4 weeks still yet to go before week 0 kicks in, when camps are starting, and they're going to scrimmage this weekend, and then they're going to kind of fine tune and figure out who the starters are going to be and who the second guys, and what can we do to platoon, and what defenses can we run. Every one of these schools, all of the 16 of them, have something to offer, and it is a very competitive conference. And I think you'll agree with me, folks, that we're breaking it down right now, and there's very few folks that can have a clear-cut decision, other than we know that Arizona State will be up at the top. But who's going to be right there with them? That's going to be a chess game all throughout the season. So I appreciate that. And Brandon, I would be remiss if I didn't allow you to speak about your beloved 49ers for at least a little bit right now. Last year at this time, we were talking about wide receivers and left tackles and defensive ends and contracts this and who are we going to sign and where is Brock Purdy going to fit in with the extension and what the heck are we going to do? Niners end up 6-11 last year. Their point differential was -47, meaning they scored 389 points. They gave up 436. Let's just be polite about this. The wheels fell off. There were some injury issues. There were some problems where they just couldn't put the right guys on the field. There were a few weeks where, just like Detroit, it seemed like if you worked at the Foot Locker, just answer your phone, because you're going to have a tryout with either the Lions or the 49ers, depending on how fast your 40 time is. They were just picking guys up off the street. I don't hear the same issues coming out of 49er camp this year. That is a quiet surprise to me, and I'm going to let the silence speak for itself. I think they're just going to get back to playing football and doing the best that they can. What are your thoughts in particular about your 49ers?
Yeah, no, I would agree. The wheels definitely came off last year. I mean, at one point we had more than 150 million of our salary cap on injured reserve. So it was kind of like, well, there's all our stars on the bench. But this year's looking bright. Part of the wheels falling off last year was our defense was atrocious. We were, I want to say, like a bottom 5 run defense unit in just about every category. Yards per attempt, yards given up. Like we couldn't stop a 3rd and short or a 3rd and long to save our life, and it was very apparent. There were multiple times where Brock would lead the team down and score, and we'd go up ahead, and we'd just need that one more stop to close out the game, and the other team would just walk right down the field and score. And it's just, that wasn't the normal Niners way. And it was like, that had to be addressed this year in the draft. And obviously they were trying to reload, not rebuild. So it had to be done fast. And I do think,
hey, Brandon, real quick, I'm gonna interrupt you real quick.
Sure.
Here's what I noticed. Tell me if I'm wrong. As a guy that wasn't following the Niners as closely as you do, you go to Buffalo. You play in the snow. Late in the year, you're at home against Detroit. You played the Lions late in the year.
Yep.
If I'm the opponent coach, any of the guys on the staff, I'm saying they're going to play us rock hard in the first half, guys, but wear them down. Wear them down. That's all you need to do. By the time the third quarter comes, that 1 yard gain is going to be a 3 yard gain. That 8 yard pickup is going to be 12 yards, and they're going to fall apart. They just don't have what they used to have. Take advantage of it. Keep the pedal to the metal. Don't let your foot off of their throat. Is there a fair assessment of what I'm saying there?
Yeah, that I would credit to we're getting it back with Robert Saleh, but it's that killer instinct mentality. They lost it on defense. That, like, we're coming for your throat, squeeze out the oxygen, and choke you out for 4 quarters of a football game. And so that, I think, is very reflected in their draft choices this year. Like, right out the gate, 1st round pick, Mikael Williams. You look at his draft profile, and the dude reminds me of Aldon Smith. Fingers crossed, no off the field issues. Because if he doesn't have any off the field issues, that dude, like, the reports out of camp is Trent Williams has hated going up against Mikael Williams, which that now makes 3 rookies that I know of have been able to beat Trent Williams in one-on-one matchups. And that's Aldon Smith from way back when, Nick Bosa, and now Mikael Williams. So if we just got a running mate for Nick Bosa that's any type of level of what Aldon Smith was, the rest of the league's got to look out just based on that alone.
Yeah. You mentioned him, Brandon, Robert Saleh. What does that mean to you as a fan and a guy that has been watching this team for a while? His value to me, and forgive me, I'm not acting. I've never played for the guy. I don't know, but he could take the guy off a Foot Locker, and a week later, that guy is going to be playing against an All-Pro, and he's going to make the All-Pro look bad. Robert Saleh is one of those guys that he didn't do it with Aaron Rodgers as head coach, but as a defensive coordinator, I think those guys love him. They love playing for him. They know they're going to get better or be in a position where they can be a Pro Bowler, and that brings a value that is very hard to measure.
Oh yeah, I would agree 100%. He brings a different mentality to it. Like I said, it's that kind of that killer instinct mentality of when Saleh was our coach, the Niners D-line, they had a chip on their shoulder. That Niners D-line carried Jimmy Garoppolo to a Super Bowl.
They dominated. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, what was it? We threw 8 passes in the NFC Championship game versus the Packers. So, we had to get back to that mentality of dominating, up front in the trenches. And, the way the NFL rules are going, the high-flying offense, there's only one way to stop a high-flying offense, and that's you put them on their back.
Well, and that's why he got the job with the Jets, is because he did such a great job. Hey, you did it on defense. Now, if you can just get somebody else to do that as a coordinator and bring in somebody off, I want my team to play as hard as I've watched your 49er team play. He couldn't make that happen in New York. Guess what? Not many people have. No disrespect to the Jets or their fans. It's a harder place to win, and for some reason, they really struggle with it. I know you want to keep interrupting you. Please forgive me. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just saying, though, that look at the success rate of defensive-minded head coaches in this landscape of NFL football. They're, I don't want to say becoming obsolete, but look at the coaches that are dominating right now in the league. They are offensive-minded. And so that I don't want to say that's why Saleh failed, but maybe I'm hoping he realizes, hey, I want to win a few championships, and I'm a damn good defensive coach. And as long as I stay with Shanahan, he's got the offensive side, and together, because I point to that also as to why the Chiefs stayed as competitive as they did. yeah, Mahomes is great. Yeah, he's the one that puts butts in the seats, that sells tickets. But the reason why they've been as dominant as they were in the 2 Super Bowls they do have, 3, is Chris Jones and the defense.
Yeah.
And the fact that I'm forgetting his name now. Spagnola. I'm like, Serrano. No, yeah, Spagnola. The fact that he's been a head coach, failed, and come back and realized, hey, I'm a coordinator and I want to stay a coordinator. That's been their advantage. I promise you, if they didn't keep their defensive coordinator this whole time, they probably wouldn't have had the trilogy that they have put up. The dynasty that they've brought, because the consistency of knowing a scheme, and then he's a motivator of men, just like Robert Saleh is. He makes guys want to run through a wall for him. And then his his defensive approach is no thinking. It's all reaction. It's the second that ball snaps, kill. And I think defensive players gravitate to that, because that, they don't want to sit there and wait and read and react. Like, no, they just want it simple. The second that ball moves, I'm either coming after the quarterback or I'm guarding my guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Vincent, I know you're chomping at the bit, but before you give your comment, I'm going to ask you, Vincent, real quick. Wide receiver, tight end, Kittle, fullback, running back, quarterback, left tackle, right tackle. I'm a little disappointed if I'm a 49er fan. I know that they've had some injuries, and the biggest one is McCaffrey, in my opinion. He's the guy that you have to cover him or you're going to give up a lot of yards. But a little surprised at 389 total points. I thought they would lead the league, or at least lead the division, and they've kind of struggled with that. What do the Niners need to do offensively?
I think most of all stay healthy. The key pieces to their offense is can George Kittle be healthy? Can Christian McCaffrey be healthy going into the season? Can Brandon Ayuk stay healthy? But most of all, can they get production? Now, when I'm hearing out of camp, they love the boy out of Florida, Ricky Parcells.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying he can be the man. And then they loving the young running back they drafted in the draft here, Jordan James. As being a guy that can give Christian McCaffrey a little breather. And then, of course, Trent Williams has to stay healthy. And for me, okay, since we started the show this evening on who deserves their money, and I hate to bring this back up, let's see, Brock Purdy deserves his money, since one gentleman brought up Michael Parsons.
All right.
You don't have all them weapons around you now. Debo's not there no more. Let's see, you be a top 3 quarterback to get your 49ers back to what we know out there on the West Coast. It's Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah.
Joe Montana. I don't have to say no more. That's what I see the 49ers have to do in offensively. First and foremost, is Brock Purdy going to play at that level as a not top 5, top 3 quarterback in the league, since he's got that money? OJ's money. Back to you, Hawk.
Well, you hit the defensive side, Brandon. Let me let you talk a little bit about, Shanahan, his play calling, the origination of that defense, and being able to. You almost need 3 footballs, maybe even 4. There's going to be somebody open in the passing game. It didn't work last year the way that it should. What's your confidence level like in terms of what you anticipate the Niners offense capable of doing here this year?
I'd say very confident. I mean, there were definitely the struggles last year, but that I think more so can be pointed and credited to injury and not having dudes. Because I mean, Brock Purdy, yeah, I agree. He's got to step up. He got paid, so now it's time to show he's a top 3 quarterback. I mean, with all the struggles, no superstars around him, he still managed to carry his team. As far as from a quarterback standpoint, he still was a top 10 quarterback last year. That's why they addressed the defense, because that's the reason we lost a lot of games last year. As far as offense, though, I think the offensive shift, I would like to see the offense shift more and center around George Kittle. I think that dude's potential and his ability, I mean, we've seen it and it's put on display, but if we ran the Niners offense kind of the way the Chiefs run their offense through Kelsey, and then let Christian McCaffrey complement and not be the big kingpin centerpiece that we ride into the dirt the very second he gets back, aka last year, because it was frustrating. Jordan Mason was leading the league in rushing. Christian McCaffrey comes back, his first game back, and Jordan Mason saw 2 carries. It's like, dude, you've got a capable back, split it up. Like, Christian McCaffrey's great, but if we burn him out in the first half of the season, then it doesn't really matter. I want to see the ball spread around and let him be a compliment. And then that way, rolling into the playoffs, it's like, who is the go-to guy? And that's where the Niners do have that ability. But I think Kittle, I honestly believe the Niners offense should run through Kittle. He brings a different energy to it. And I mean, you look at, like I said, you look at the way, like his ability, he was the only dude really around that's consistently been there for Brock the whole time. Everybody else has been in and out with injuries. Debo's declined since we've paid him. So like I said, I credit the guy, let's make the heart of the offense the heart of the team, or vice versa. Cause I think anybody would point to George Kittle being the heart of the team. And so I don't know why we don't make that the heart of the offense. Because I believe
does it bother you at all that you let Christian McCaffrey? Brent, real quick, I'm sorry to bother you. Interrupted. You bring a 2-back system in every now and then, and put McCaffrey as an H-back, or put him in motion and get a one-on-one with him with a linebacker. Then you have Kittle to roam around in the middle with one less linebacker in the area, or if you have a safety on him, that'll open up some things. I still don't know why you have a good running back you just mentioned, and then you take him out to put McCaffrey in. Leave them both in for a couple of plays, not always, but just take advantage of your roster and put different combinations in there and create havoc for a defensive coordinator to figure, who am I going to cover, especially McCaffrey is the number 2 running back, and he's in the slot, and he can run either over the middle or run an out route or run up the gut and do some damage. I'm just so surprised that I don't see more of that in the 49er offense.
No, I agree. I would love to see more 2-back sets, and like, especially thinking like what I would do with them, especially when we did still have Debo. I don't know why we didn't do more of, Debo and McCaffrey in the backfield.
He's an excellent blocker too. When he was in Debo, that dude could block. I'm telling you,
excellent blocker. I mean, he'd do anything you'd ask in that regard. That's where I just don't know why we didn't scheme up more. I don't want to say trickery, but just, you've got the 2-headed monster, and one guy's going one way, one guy's going the other way. You got to prepare for both. And if you run it, you execute it. It's just smash mouth football, when it's kind of like, hey, we're going, back in the old days of Joe Staley and the Jim Harbaugh Niners, you knew we were going power O to the left, and we'd tell you, try and stop us. And then we'd still rush for a first down. So, it's kind of that mentality, but I'd like to see more. Like I said, I'd like to see more of George Kittle, and then the new guys I think are stepping up. I think it was the right time to move on. It follows very closely to the Bill Walsh mentality of, you move on from a guy 1 year before his prime, essentially, or not before his prime, but like a year early sort of thing. And looking at the time, it was time for Debo. I wish him the best in Washington, but it was time for him to move on in the Niners, because I think, one, Brock Purdy, he just got paid, so it's his team now. He's the alpha dog of the alphas over there. And what's interesting is Trent Williams, Fred Warner, and the true guys that we know are the alpha dogs on that team will look and point and say Brock Purdy's the dog. So to me, that's interesting. It was a time of kind of a transitional period. New leadership had to take place. There's a couple that stay to continue the culture, but it was time to get young and better in some areas that we needed to. Parasol's younger. I don't want to say hungrier, but we're going to see, the dude came back and managed to get on an NFL field after being shot. So as far as tenacity and what that guy can do, I want to see what he can do with a full season, off season, preparation, everything.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. The dude, I think, is out of Ole Miss. something Watkins. He's a rookie stepping up that we've been hearing. He's been making plays. So what I'm hearing is Brock Purdy's taking ownership of his team, and I mean, he'll make anybody a star as long as you go out there and do your job. He's going to do his and put the ball in your hand.
All right, do me a favor, real quick. The rest of the division contains a 8-9 Arizona Cardinals staff. Seattle Seahawks, they were eliminated at 10-7, right? The winner of the division, the LA Rams, win it at 10-7, but the tiebreaker goes to Los Angeles. They make the playoffs. Who scares you the most in terms of the rest of the division? I'll go with you, Brandon, first, and then Vincent.
That's kind of a tough one. I think the Rams, if Stafford's healthy, are probably the one to point at initially. But the reports are he's dealing with like a bulged disc or like back issues, and as old as he is at quarterback, like I'm personally dealing with 2 bulge discs, and I can't imagine being tackled by anybody. So the fact that they're like, oh yeah, he'll be ready for the season, I'm doubting that Stafford's going to be ready for week 1. And so then that makes me go, oh, who's the star? Oh, Jimmy G. Okay, so Brock Purdy's backup that sent Jimmy G out of San Francisco because Brock Purdy played so good. So I'm not too worried about that. Also, I find it funny, Devontae Adams literally left the Raiders because he's like, I can't take this. I hate playing with Jimmy G. And now it looks like he's going to be playing with Jimmy G again. So if that's the case, I don't want to say I'm going to be worried, but it's like, how can I be worried about the dude? Like 2 of the 3 other quarterbacks in the division have undoubtedly been proven to be of a lesser quarterback than Brock Purdy is.
Vincent, same question. Who, if you're a Niners fan, and I know you're a Cowboy fan, so it doesn't apply to you, but if you were, Arizona, Seattle, LA Rams, what are you thinking?
Oh man, I don't want to start nothing this evening. You know how I am, Harper. So you want to look.
You just want to talk about the Eagles and the Commanders. That's all you want to talk about right now, and how you're going to get ahead.
Brandon, I see this gonna be a long season with you, brother. You're a 49ers fan. It's the Rams, man.
It is.
The Rams, look what they did last year. They came 1 play from beating the Eagles in Philadelphia, stopping the Eagles going on to their great Super Bowl run.
And now
go ahead.
I'm going to counter with different Eagles team given, so we got to see it play out. But also the last time a healthy Niners squad rolled up against a healthy Eagles squad, that Eagles team left with their tail between their legs, and you could argue their soul was snatched from them in their house.
I agree. But however,
their soul was snatched.
You want to throw shots?
Remember that hit on Swift? He was coming across the middle, and blam, he got blasted. That was the soul snatcher right there. We were already up like 30 points, and it was just boom.
You're talking about the 49ers when they beat the Eagles, right? Okay. But see, we're going to talk about what happened last year, not 2 years before.
Yeah.
Last year, the Rams came 1 play and get into the Super Bowl. And the thing that you do not understand, even though Matthew Stafford is hurt, Sean McVay can coach. Sean are real close. And they got Devontae Adams, and he's going to put up numbers in that system. Then they re-signed Karen Williams. Oh, my bad. 5th round pick out of Notre Dame. I think he's had over 1,300 yards the last 2 seasons. So that's telling me it don't matter who in Sean McVay's system, baby. But this is what I love about the Rams, why I say they're dangerous. They got them 2 guys out of Florida State last year. When everybody said, oh, the Rams D-line is going to go over here, Aaron Donald retired. But Jared Verse and Brandon Fisk and Kobe Young.
Verse was one of my draft crushes last year. He was one of my favorite.
And Cam Kitchens, the safety out of the U. It's the Rams, baby. That is going to be between the 49ers and the Rams. That's all I got.
We also got to remember that's the same Rams team that had our kicker been able to hit, I think it was like a 47-yarder, we would have beat him. And had it was that Ronnie Bell dude from Michigan. Had he been able to catch, because Purdy delivered it was probably about 25 yards down the field, minute something left in the game, driving to end the Rams, and he put it in his numbers, just like you couldn't have handed it to him any better. And Ronnie Bell dropped it, which would have set up the game-winning field goal to win that game. So again, I'll take it. If it's the Rams, that's fine. Kyle Shanahan owns them.
Okay, what I just heard, if I can rebuttal, I heard coulda, shoulda, woulda, donna, did this. If the Cowboys signed Michael Parsons and win a Super Bowl, I'd be happy. That's a woulda. You know what I'm saying?
True that.
Let's stay in the moment. The moment. What happened last year? And to now the rivalry. Y'all used to own them. But the question was, who going to be the team to defeat in the division? The 49ers and the Rams. And I'm going to be rivalry real close since you part of 100 yards of football now.
But you also can't sleep on the Seahawks. Sam Darnold up there.
Oh,
I like
come on,
McDonald.
Man.
You know, he assembled some things. I don't like I said, I don't.
Hey, Brandon, can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
Last game, Sam Darnold. Who did they play? Even when he was under center for the Vikings. They played the Rams, right?
Yeah.
How many sacks he had to take in that game? He got sacked 7 times.
I was gonna say, I'm all like, I can count. I remembered 5.
This my question. If Sam Darnold was that good, why did the Vikings then re-sign him for one more season and give J.J. McCartney one more year to sit? But this is Sam Darnold that was at Carolina.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold that was with New York. And he was with y'all. Okay.
That's where Kyle Shanahan, I guess it's such the quarterback whisperer. Everyone just assumes that whatever quarterback comes and backs up at the Niners is just good to go the following season.
Okay. And then who the other? The Cardinals.
And then the Cardinals. Murray can give it, like, it'll come down to how well Murray can play.
London Bridge, up, down. Too inconsistent, brother.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
The final answer is going to be between the 49ers and the Rams. And
if both teams build up to full health and full potential, who you taking?
I'm going to be honest. If I could be honest, I like y'all GM John Lynch. Stanford grad. John Lynch played on the defensive side of the ball. You brought up good points this evening. Most of all, what hurt y'all was y'all defense. What did John Lynch do? He took Mikael Williams out of Georgia first. Then he came back with that big stud out of Texas, Alfred Collins. Then he came back with Nick Martin, tackling machine out of Oklahoma State. Then he got a cover corner, Upton Stout, out of Virginia Tech, I believe. And then finally, C.J. West, who's a player out of Indiana, coached by Mr. Kurt Sagetti. Those 5 young players is what got me excited about the 49ers being back in the mix.
And right now, reports are that 4 of them have pretty much all but like locked up starting spots on the Niners. Yeah, okay. Collins, West, Mikael Williams, and Stout have pretty much locked up spots. The only one that's not struggling, but Nick Martin hasn't taken a spot yet. That's not a knock on him or anything. But when I saw that draft class, I looked at it and I was like, I think we would have, 4 to 5 starters in it. And those areas, if they translate, I mean, we got Mikael Williams was the best run setting edge in all of college football last year.
We saw him play a lot down here in Georgia.
I'd say you probably saw a bit of him there. Yeah. And then Alfred Collins was top graded D tackle. CJ West was the top graded run stopping D tackle. And then now they're finding out him in camp. Apparently he has some violent hands and he pushes the pocket that from a pass, they didn't even get him from a pass rushing standpoint, but he's blowing up pockets. So he's sounding like he's winning one-on-ones versus Trent Williams and Dominic Pooney. And it's like that, it's not that those guys, Dominic Pooney was a rookie last year in the 6th graded guard in the league. So that's, no slouch to gauge him against. And that's kind of where I'm like, if we fixed what we fixed last year, or, fix the holes that we showed last year, which I believe we did, we stopped, a lot more, we'll face a whole lot more 3rd and longs if we got a run defense that can actually hold up, on 1st and 2nd down and not just be giving up 3rd and 2s and 3rd and 1s all day. And then, like I said, we reload there, and then you're going to give me a guy that bills out like an Aldon Smith, and I get to put him opposite of Nick Bosa. Our D line might be a pick the poison kind of scenario. Who you going to double team and who you going to take your chance with a one-on-one? It kind of reminds me of really the same way of what the Eagles did last year. They loaded up on young defensive linemen that had high potential, high ceiling, and hit on them. So if the Niners did the same by all accounts in camp so far, it sounds like that's the case. I expect us to be right there in the end when it happens. Probably back to representing in another NFC Championship game. Seems like every few years we're there.
And the Super Bowl gonna be in San Francisco this year too, right?
It is. So if there's a year to do it, it would be this year. And we also carry a light as far as strength of schedule. We have one of the easier schedules in the league. So it all comes together. We gotta go put it together. But like I said, if you're gonna give me an Aldon Smith character opposite Nick Bosa, that's gonna keep opposing quarterbacks up the night before.
and one player that you mentioned that he was a fantastic football player, saw him play a lot down here in the SEC. Jordan Watkins is a player, the receiver out of Ole Miss.
Oh yeah, Jordan Watkins. Yep.
And what you need to do when we finish this show this evening, do me a favor. Contact the Ole Miss football department and send Lane Kiffin an email because he developed that young man.
You want him to thank him personally for allowing him to be on the roster right now?
Well, to be honest, the way he's built out, I honestly think that the way he looks and everything, he reminds me of a young Debo coming out of college.
Yes, sir.
So Kyle Shanahan found his his next offensive weapon, if you will.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Amazing.
Okay, back to you, Hawk.
Well, it's been an interesting debate, hasn't it, folks? We've had the ability to go around the Big 12 conference, and then we spent an hour just talking about the NFC West. Just wait till we talk about some of the other divisions and things that are going to be going on just in the NFC side. It'll be an interesting perspective. And Brandon, we certainly appreciate you sharing your view and your expertise, both of which are extremely entertaining. And we hope that you're right in some respects, but I know Ram fans and Seahawk and Cardinal fans are going, you don't have any idea what we're talking about. We didn't get to give our side of the story. So it's going to be a very interesting debate that we have, but we appreciate it greatly. So we'll end the show here today by thanking Brandon for being a part of it. Brandon Larson, our expert opinion and knowledge provider really about the Big 12 Conference, the University of Utah specifically, and obviously the San Francisco 49ers. So for Vincent Turner, our co-host and our founder, and myself, we want to say thank you for tuning in to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. The season's getting ready to kick in, folks. The first regular season weekend for the National Football League, the preseason, begins this weekend. So get ready to see your backup guys, your third and fourth string play a whole heck of a lot, and just a couple more weeks to go before the season kicks off early in September. We appreciate you being a part of the show today, everybody. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.